Rain hammered against the glass walls of the penthouse like it was trying to get inside. The city below pulsed with light and movement, alive and impatient, just like the man pacing barefoot across the marble floor. Adrian Vale checked his watch for the third time in 2 minutes. "Send it again," he said sharply into his phone. "No, I don't care what time it is in Singapore. This merger doesn't wait." Across the room, Elena stood near the kitchen island, one hand resting unconsciously on the curve of her stomach. She was visibly pregnant now, far enough that hiding it took effort, far enough that fear had begun to replace excitement. A folded hospital report lay on the counter beside her, edges crumpled from being opened and closed too many times. She inhaled. "Adrian, I need to talk to you." He held up a finger without turning around. Just a second. The second stretched. Then another. Then another. Elena swallowed. Her feet hurt. Her back ached. A wave of nausea rolled through her, sharp enough that she had to grip the edge of the counter to stay steady. She watched him pace, listened to the clipped confidence in his voice, the way he spoke about billions like they were loose change. "Yes. Lock it in. I'll sign tonight." She waited. Minutes passed. When he finally ended the call, he exhaled, rubbed his face, and reached for his laptop. "Okay," he said distractedly. "What were you saying?" She hesitated. The moment already felt wrong, like stepping into traffic after the light had changed. "I went for my checkup today," she said softly. "Uh-huh." He scrolled through emails. And the doctor said." Her voice wavered. She stopped, embarrassed by it. Adrian didn't look up. "Elena, can this wait?" he said. "Tomorrow's the biggest day of my career. I just need tonight to be quiet." Quiet. The word landed heavier than a shout. She nodded slowly. "Of course." He smiled, relieved. "Thank you. You're amazing." She didn't correct him. Instead, she reached for her wedding ring, turning it once around her finger, then again. Her hands trembled. Adrian was already gone again, lost in projections and timelines. Elena slipped the ring off and set it gently on the counter, beside the folded medical report. He didn't notice. That night, she lay awake alone while Adrian slept beside her, phone glowing faintly as emails continued to arrive. Her body felt foreign, tight, wrong. Every small cramp sent a jolt of fear through her chest. She whispered into the darkness, "Please be okay," though she wasn't sure if she meant herself, the baby, or the marriage. Morning came too fast. Adrian was already dressed when she woke, tie perfectly straight, confidence back in place. "I'll be late tonight," he said, grabbing his jacket. "Huge day." She sat up slowly. "Adrian, maybe you could come with me to the hospital today." He paused at the door. "Just for a second." "What for?" he asked. "Just a routine check," she said, forcing a smile. "But I've been feeling dizzy." He checked his watch again. "Today isn't great," he said. "After the merger, okay? I promise." She nodded. "Okay." He kissed her forehead, already pulling away. The door closed behind him with a soft click that felt louder than the rain the night before. At the hospital, the air smelled like disinfectant and quiet worry. Elena sat alone in the waiting area, hands folded over her belly, watching couples whisper to each other, watching a man argue gently with a nurse, watching life happen with witnesses. Her phone buzzed. For a moment, hope flared. It wasn't Adrian. It was a reminder notification for her next appointment. When the nurse finally called her name, Elena stood too quickly. The room tilted. Black dots danced at the edges of her vision. Inside the exam room, the doctor frowned at the screen longer than Elena liked. "There's some bleeding," the doctor said carefully. "It could be nothing, but it could also be a sign of early complications." Elena's throat tightened. "Is my baby okay?" "For now," the doctor said. "But I'd like you to reduce stress. Complete rest. And ideally, you shouldn't be alone." Elena nodded, even as something inside her cracked. Outside, she dialed Adrian's number. It rang. Once. Twice. Voicemail. She tried again. Voicemail. She closed her eyes, leaned against the wall, and left a message she practiced sounding calm. "Hi, it's me. I'm at the hospital. Everything's mostly fine. Just call me when you can." She hung up and slid down into the chair, one hand over her mouth to hold back the sob that burned her chest. That was when she heard a familiar voice. "Elena." She looked up. Marcus Reed stood a few feet away, holding a coffee he had clearly forgotten about. His eyes dropped instantly to her stomach, then back to her face. "Oh," he said softly. "You're pregnant." The words felt strangely grounding. "Yes," she said. "I am." He stepped closer, concern etched into his face. Are you okay? She opened her mouth to say yes. The lie felt heavier than usual. I don't know, she admitted. Marcus pulled out a chair and sat beside her without touching her, without assuming anything. You don't have to be, he said. Not here. Across the city, Adrian Vale stood in a glass-walled conference room, shaking hands, smiling for cameras, unaware that everything he believed was stable had already begun to shift. And Elena sat in a hospital waiting room, realizing for the first time that love could disappear quietly. Without shouting, without drama, just unanswered calls and postponed conversations. She glanced at her phone again. Still no call back. And somewhere deep inside, a question began to form that scared her more than any diagnosis. What if this was all there was? Marcus didn't ask questions right away. He sat beside Elena in the hospital waiting area, legs stretched out, hands folded loosely between his knees, giving her space the way people only do when they've learned the hard way what pressure can do. You here alone? He asked gently after a moment. Elena hesitated. She nodded. My husband is busy. Marcus didn't react. No raised eyebrows, no judgment. Just a slow inhale. I was visiting a friend, he said. Surgery this morning. I didn't expect to run into you. She gave a weak smile. Neither did I. Silence settled between them, not awkward, just full. Elena noticed how different it felt from the silence at home. This one didn't swallow her. How far along are you? Marcus asked. Almost 5 months. He let out a soft breath. That's a lot. She laughed quietly, though there was no humor in it. That's one word for it. The nurse called her name again, this time for additional tests. Elena stood slowly, swaying just a little. Marcus was on his feet instantly, steadying her elbow without pulling. I'm fine, she said automatically. I know, he replied. But let me walk with you. Inside the exam room, machines hummed softly. Elena lay back, staring at the ceiling tiles, counting the cracks like she used to as a child when she was scared. The doctor moved briskly, professionally, explaining things Elena only half heard. Monitoring, precaution, rest. Marcus waited outside. When she came out, her face was pale. They're keeping me for observation, she said. Just for a few hours. Did you call Adrian again? She nodded. He hasn't called back. Marcus's jaw tightened for half a second before he relaxed it again. Do you want me to stay? She looked at him, really looked at him, at the familiarity mixed with distance. Years ago, Marcus had been reckless, charming, always chasing the next opportunity, the next thrill. He'd left when things became serious. He'd said he wasn't ready. I don't want to be alone, she said. I'm here, he said simply. Across town, Adrian Vale stood in front of a massive screen, laser pointer in hand, outlining the future of his company with flawless confidence. This merger doesn't just change the market, he said to the room of executives. It defines it. Applause followed. Adrian smiled, fueled by it. His phone vibrated in his pocket. He ignored it. At the hospital, Elena dozed fitfully, waking to the soft beeping of monitors. Marcus sat nearby, scrolling through his phone, occasionally glancing up to check on her. You don't have to stay, she murmured. I know, he said. I want to. Her eyes stung. She turned her face away. When she was finally discharged, the doctor was firm. No stress. No emotional strain. And absolutely no isolation. You need support. Elena nodded, heart heavy with the irony. Outside, Marcus offered to drive her home. I'll take a cab, she said. Let me, he insisted gently. At least until you're settled. She agreed. The car ride was quiet, city lights streaking past the windows. When they pulled into the driveway of the penthouse, Marcus hesitated. You don't look safe there, he said softly. She closed her eyes. It's my home. For now, he said, then immediately added. I'm sorry. That wasn't my place. She shook her head. No, you're right. Inside, the house was empty and immaculate. Elena sank onto the couch, exhaustion crashing over her. Marcus stood awkwardly by the door. Do you want me to? You can stay for a bit, she said. Just sit. They sat, not touching, just existing in the same space. That was how Adrian found them. He came home late, adrenaline still humming from the day, phone in hand, rehearsing the press release in his head. The sight of Marcus in his living room stopped him cold. What the hell is he doing here? Adrian snapped. Elena flinched. I ran into him at the hospital, she said quietly. Adrian's gaze flicked to her, really seeing her for the first time that day, her pallor, the tension in her shoulders. You were at the hospital? He asked. Yes, she said. I called you. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Today was. I know, she interrupted, her voice trembling. It always is. Marcus stood. I should go. No, Adrian said sharply. I want to know why my wife needed company from her ex. Elena stood too, despite the dizziness. Because my husband wasn't there. The words hung heavy. Adrian's face hardened. This isn't appropriate. What's inappropriate, she said, anger finally breaking through the fear. Is being alone when you're scared for your baby. Silence. Marcus stepped back. I'll leave, he said quietly. Elena, call me if you need anything. Adrian watched him go, fists clenched. When the door closed, he turned on Elena. You embarrassed me. She stared at him. I almost lost our child today. That stopped him. What? He asked, disbelief cutting through his irritation. She laughed bitterly. See, you didn't even know. Adrian ran a hand through his hair. Why didn't you tell me it was serious? I tried, she said. I always try. He reached for her. She stepped back. I need rest, she said. Please. She walked past him, leaving him standing alone in the vast living room, surrounded by success that suddenly felt very far away. That night, Adrian lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the image of Marcus's concerned face replaying in his mind. For the first time, doubt crept in. And for Elena, lying curled protectively around her stomach, one thought repeated over and over, louder than fear, louder than hope. I can't do this alone anymore. The next morning arrived quietly, the kind of quiet that felt suspicious. Elena woke before dawn, her body stiff, her head throbbing. For a moment, she forgot everything. The hospital, Marcus, the argument. Then she shifted slightly, and pain bloomed low in her abdomen, sharp enough to steal her breath. She pressed a hand to her belly and lay still, counting slowly until it eased. From the other side of the bed, Adrian slept on his back, one arm flung out as if he owned the space between them. His phone lay on the bedside table, screen dark for once. She watched him for a long moment. The man she loved. The man who provided everything except the one thing she needed most. Carefully, she slid out of bed and made her way to the bathroom. The mirror showed her a version of herself she barely recognized. Eyes sunken, face drawn, strength leaking out through the cracks of constant disappointment. You're doing your best, she whispered to her reflection. You are. Downstairs, the house hummed softly with automated life. Elena poured herself a glass of water, then sat at the kitchen table, staring at the place where she'd left her ring the night before. It was still there. A small, perfect circle of gold, catching the early light. She picked it up, holding it between her fingers. Once it had felt like a promise. Now it felt like a question. Adrian came down an hour later, dressed for another long day. He stopped short when he saw her sitting there. You should still be in bed, he said. I couldn't sleep. He glanced at the ring in her hand, then away. About last night. She cut him off gently. I don't want to fight. His shoulders relaxed slightly. Good. Neither do I. She looked up at him then, really looked, and felt something inside her harden. That's the problem, she said quietly. We don't fight. We don't talk. We don't do anything except avoid. He frowned. That's not fair. It is, she said. You just don't like how it sounds. His phone buzzed. He checked it instinctively. She stood. There it is. There what is? The reason I don't exist when something more important shows up. Adrian sighed, frustration creeping in. You know this merger decides everything. And what do I decide? She asked. What does our child decide? He hesitated. That hesitation told her everything. Later that day, Elena sat in the guest room, folding clothes slowly, deliberately. She wasn't packing to leave. Not yet, but something in her needed order. Control. Her phone rang. Marcus. She stared at the screen, conflicted, then answered. Hi, she said. Just checking on you, he said. You didn't sound okay last night. I'm managing. A pause. Did you tell him how serious it was? Yes, she said. I think. Marcus didn't push. Listen, I don't want to complicate things. But if you need someone to drive you to your next appointment, or just sit with you. Thank you, she said, emotion thickening her voice. That means more than you know. After she hung up, Elena sat back on the bed, hands resting on her stomach. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a future where she didn't keep shrinking to make someone else comfortable. Across town, Victoria Vale adjusted her blazer in the mirror of Adrian's office, her lips curling into a practiced smile as she turned to face him. You look exhausted, she said, settling into the chair opposite his desk. This merger is killing you. It's almost done, Adrian said. Once it closes, everything else will calm down. Victoria tilted her head. Everything else? Elena, he said. She's struggling. Victoria nodded sympathetically. Too sympathetically. Pregnancy can be very emotional, she said. Especially for women who aren't used to stress. He bristled. She's strong. Of course, Victoria said smoothly. But strength doesn't make hormones disappear. You have to protect the company from instability. That word stuck. Instability. She fainted once, Adrian said defensively. That doesn't mean. Adrian, Victoria interrupted gently. I'm on your side. I just don't want anything distracting you right now. The board is already nervous. He exhaled. What are you suggesting? Space, she said. Temporary. For her own health. Less pressure. Adrian considered it, not realizing how quickly concern was being reshaped into convenience. That evening, Elena's pain returned sharper this time. She sat on the bathroom floor, breathing through it, phone shaking in her hand. She called Adrian. No answer. She called Marcus. He picked up immediately. I'm coming. At the hospital, doctors moved faster this time. Tests. Monitors. Serious expressions. You're at risk of preterm complications, the doctor said. Stress is a significant factor. Elena nodded, tears slipping silently down her temples. Marcus stood at the foot of the bed, helpless but present. You're not alone, he said quietly. When Adrian finally arrived, hours later, Elena was asleep, taped to her arm. Marcus met him in the hallway. You should have been here sooner, Marcus said flatly. Adrian's jaw clenched. This isn't your place. It became my place when you weren't here, Marcus shot back. Adrian pushed past him, guilt and anger warring inside his chest. He stood by Elena's bedside, watching the slow rise and fall of her chest, the fragile line connecting her to the machines. Fear finally broke through. I'm sorry, he whispered, though he wasn't sure who he was saying it to. Outside the room, Victoria watched from a distance, her expression unreadable. The doctor approached Adrian later, voice calm but firm. Your wife needs rest. And support. If her environment doesn't change, the risks increase. Adrian nodded, shaken. That night, as Elena slept, he made a decision. One he believed was right. He didn't realize yet how wrong it would feel to her. And Elena, drifting in and out of sleep, had the strangest sense that something was ending, even as everything else fought to survive. Elena woke to the sound of hushed voices. She needs calm, the doctor was saying. Not just medically, emotionally. Stress like this doesn't disappear on its own. I understand, Adrian replied. His voice sounded strained, thinner than usual. I'll make arrangements. Elena kept her eyes closed, her heart beating faster than the monitor beside her. Arrangements. The word echoed. When the door closed, silence settled again. She opened her eyes slowly and turned her head. Adrian was standing at the window, phone in his hand, staring out at the city like it held answers he couldn't find in her face. How long were you awake? He asked without turning. Long enough, she said. He came to her side, pulling a chair close. The doctor says you need less stress. A lot less. She nodded. I know. There's something I think might help. Her fingers curled slightly into the sheet. Say it. Just for a while. He began carefully. Maybe you should stay somewhere quieter. My place has been chaotic. Calls, meetings, people in and out. It's not good for you right now. She stared at him. You want me to leave? No, he said quickly. I want you to rest. To be safe. Somewhere without you, she said. He hesitated, and that hesitation cut deeper than any argument. It's temporary, he said. Until the merger is done. Then everything settles. I'll be there. Fully. Elena let out a small, hollow laugh. You keep saying that, as if my body knows how to wait on your calendar. That's not fair. It's honest, she replied softly. And honesty feels unfair when it's late. He reached for her hand, but she pulled it back, resting it over her stomach instead. I almost lost the baby last night, she said. Did you know that? His face drained of color. The doctor said. They don't say everything to the fathers, she said. They tell the women what they need to hear to survive the fear. He swallowed. I didn't know. That's the point. For the first time, Adrian looked afraid, not of losing control, but of losing her. I'll fix this, he said. I promise. She closed her eyes. I'm tired of promises. 2 days later, Elena was discharged. Marcus drove her from the hospital, careful over every bump, glancing at her every few seconds like she might disappear if he didn't keep checking. You don't have to do this alone, he said again gently. I know, she replied. And for once, she meant it. She didn't go back to Adrian's house. Instead, she moved into a quiet serviced apartment near the clinic. White walls, soft light, no echoes of arguments or unanswered phones. She unpacked slowly, each folded dress feeling like a small declaration of independence. Adrian arrived that evening, standing awkwardly in the doorway, holding a bouquet that felt like an apology too late. "This isn't how I wanted things to be," he said. "Neither did I," Elena replied. He looked around. "This place, it's temporary, right?" She met his gaze. "I don't know." That uncertainty rattled him more than anger ever had. "I'm trying," he said. "I'm under pressure you can't imagine." She walked to the window, looking out at the quiet street below. "I imagine it every day. I just don't get chosen over it." Silence stretched. "I'll give you space," he said finally. "But don't shut me out." She didn't answer. She didn't trust herself to. After he left, Elena sank onto the couch, hands shaking. She pressed both palms to her belly, breathing slowly. "You're still here," she whispered. "I'm still here." That night, Marcus brought soup and sat with her while she ate. "You don't have to defend him to me," he said when she grew quiet. "I know who Adrian is." "That's the problem," she said. "So do I. And I married him anyway." Marcus leaned back. "People don't marry who they see. They marry who they hope someone will become." She looked at him. "And what about you?" He didn't answer right away. "I'm not here to save you," he said finally. "I'm here because once you saved me." She remembered, years ago before Adrian, when Marcus had been reckless, ambitious, and on the edge of losing everything. She had believed in him when no one else did. "You shouldn't put your life on hold for me," she said. "I'm not," he replied. "I'm choosing where to stand." Across the city, Victoria sat in Adrian's office, reviewing event details on her tablet. "The merger gala is next week," she said. "Press, investors, the works. You'll need stability. A united front." Adrian rubbed his temples. "Elena's not ready for that kind of attention." "Then don't frame it as attention," Victoria said smoothly. "Frame it as reassurance. If she's there, smiling calm, it tells everyone you're solid. And if she's not," Victoria met his eyes, "then people will ask questions." The idea unsettled him. "She's fragile right now," he said. Victoria's voice softened. "Which is exactly why she needs to feel included." Seen. The irony didn't register. The invitation arrived the next morning. Black card stock. Elegant script. Elena stared at it for a long time before calling Adrian. "You want me there," she said. "I want us there," he replied. "It's important." "For the company," she said. "For our future," he corrected. She closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the choice pressing down on her ribs. "I'll come," she said slowly. "As a guest." Adrian exhaled in relief. "Thank you." After she hung up, Elena turned the card over, her reflection faint in the glossy surface. She didn't know yet that this event, meant to secure a merger, would instead force every truth into the open. Nor that the next time she would stand in a room with all of them, Adrian, Marcus, Victoria, something inside her would finally break. And something stronger would take its place. The days leading up to the gala felt stretched thin, like glass about to crack. Elena tried to follow the doctor's instructions, rest, eat, breathe, but her mind refused to slow. Every quiet moment filled with questions she hadn't dared ask out loud. Was Adrian capable of choosing her when it mattered? Or had she already become a background detail in his life, like the art on the walls he passed without seeing? She stood in front of the mirror one afternoon, smoothing a hand over her barely there bump. The pregnancy was still something she carried mostly alone, physically obvious to her, invisible to the world. "You're stronger than you think," she whispered to her reflection, though her eyes didn't fully believe it yet. Marcus knocked lightly before entering, carrying a bag of groceries. "I brought things the doctor actually approves of," he said, trying to lighten the mood. She smiled faintly. "You're turning into my nutritionist now?" "Temporary assignment," he replied. "I'm very replaceable." She laughed, then winced slightly, pressing a hand to her side. He noticed immediately. "Pain. Just pressure," she said. "It comes and goes." Concern flickered across his face. "You should lie down." "I can't lie down forever, Marcus." "No," he said gently. "But you don't have to stand alone either." That night, Adrian called. "I was thinking," he said, voice unusually tentative. "Maybe we could arrive together. Like we used to." Elena paused. "Why?" "Because it sends a message," he said. "And because I miss you." She closed her eyes. "Those are two very different reasons." There was silence on the line. "I'll pick you up," he said finally. "If you want." I'll let you know, she replied, and ended the call before he could promise anything else. The morning of the gala arrived sharp and bright. Elena woke with a knot in her stomach that had nothing to do with nausea. She dressed slowly, choosing a soft, flowing gown that concealed her pregnancy just enough to keep questions at bay. It was elegant but understated, nothing flashy, nothing loud. For the first time in a long while, she dressed for herself. Marcus watched from the doorway, arms crossed. "You look steady," he said. She met his eyes. "I don't feel it." "That's okay," he replied. "Steady doesn't always mean unafraid." She hesitated, then spoke quietly. "I invited you." He nodded. "As a friend?" "Yes." "And Adrian knows?" "He will." Marcus exhaled slowly. "This could get messy." "It already is," she said. "I'm just tired of pretending otherwise." Adrian arrived at the venue early, nerves wound tight beneath his tailored suit. Investors filled the hall, voices blending into a polished hum. Victoria moved through the space like she owned it, checking details, offering smiles that never reached her eyes. "She's coming," Adrian said, more to himself than anyone else. Victoria glanced at him. "Good. The press is already speculating." "That's not why I want her here," he snapped. Victoria raised a brow. "Then prove it." The doors opened. Elena entered on Marcus's arm. The room shifted. Whispers rippled outward like dropped glass in water. Adrian froze, the sight hitting him harder than he expected. She looked different, calmer, distant, untethered from him in a way he hadn't prepared for. And Marcus, standing beside her. Familiar. Solid. Victoria's smile tightened. Interesting choice. Adrian didn't answer. His feet carried him forward before his mind caught up. "Elena," he said, forcing warmth into his voice. "You came." She nodded. "I said I would." His gaze flicked to Marcus. "Didn't expect company." Marcus extended a hand. "Good evening." Adrian shook it, grip firm, eyes sharp. "I didn't know you two were." "Friends," Elena said calmly. "I needed one tonight." The words landed with quiet force. A photographer snapped a picture. Elena's chest tightened. The room felt suddenly too warm, the lights too bright. Her breathing grew shallow, each inhale scraping. Marcus noticed first. "Elena." She shook her head slightly. "I'm fine." She wasn't. Adrian leaned closer. "You look pale." Before she could answer, a wave of dizziness surged through her. The floor tilted. Sounds blurred. She reached for the nearest solid thing. And missed. Marcus caught her as her knees buckled. "Elena!" Adrian shouted, panic cutting through the room's polished calm. The world narrowed to darkness. She woke to white ceilings and the rhythmic beep of a monitor. "Hospital." Again. Adrian sat at her bedside, his face etched with something raw and unguarded. "You scared me," he said hoarsely. She turned her head away. "I told you I wasn't ready. You should have said something." "I did," she whispered. "Just not loudly enough for you to hear." The doctor entered, expression serious. "She experienced a drop in blood pressure," he said. "Stress-induced. Given her condition, this can't continue." Adrian swallowed. "Is the baby?" "For now," the doctor said. "But she needs peace. Real peace." When they were alone again, Adrian took her hand, holding on like it was the last anchor he had. "I can't lose you," he said. "I won't." Tears slid silently down Elena's temples. "I almost lost our child," she said. "And you were too busy negotiating futures that didn't include me." He flinched. "I didn't know it was this bad," he said. "That's because you didn't ask." Marcus stood in the hallway listening, jaw tight. Victoria stood a few steps away, arms folded, calculating. "This is becoming a liability," she murmured to Adrian later. "The press is already spinning it." Adrian looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. "My wife collapsed. And investors don't like instability," she replied coolly. Something in Adrian's chest hardened. Across the room, Elena stared at the ceiling, her hand resting protectively over her stomach. For the first time, she wasn't thinking about saving her marriage. She was thinking about saving herself. Elena stayed in the hospital for 3 days. 3 long days where the walls were quiet enough for truth to echo. Adrian came every morning and left every evening. He brought flowers, books, food she barely touched. He spoke softly now, carefully, as if volume had been the problem all along. He sat beside her bed, answering emails with one hand while holding hers with the other, and somehow that hurt more than if he'd stayed away completely. Because even now he was split in two. On the 4th morning, Elena asked the nurse to help her dress. "You're being discharged?" the nurse asked. "Yes," Elena said calmly. But I'm not going home. When Adrian arrived, suitcase in hand, relief softened his shoulders. I've cleared my schedule, he said. We'll go back together. I'll stay this time. Elena met his eyes. I'm moving out. The words landed cleanly. No tremble. No apology. Adrian stared at her as if she'd spoken in another language. What? I can't heal where I keep breaking, she said. Not physically. Not emotionally. This is because of the gala, he said quickly. Because you fainted. That doesn't mean. It means everything, she interrupted. It means my body collapsed before my heart did. He stood up. You're overreacting. She smiled sadly. That's what you said when I told you I was lonely. When I told you I was scared. When I told you something felt wrong. Silence stretched, thick and suffocating. You're pregnant, he said. You shouldn't be making big decisions like this. Her gaze sharpened. I've never been clearer. Marcus arrived later that afternoon to help her pack what little she'd brought. He moved quietly, respectfully, never touching anything without asking. Victoria showed up just as they were about to leave. This is unnecessary, she said, blocking the doorway. Adrian needs stability right now. Elena looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the pattern clearly for the first time. You don't care about stability, Elena said. You care about control. Victoria's lips thinned. You're emotional. Yes, Elena replied. And that doesn't make me wrong. Adrian watched the exchange, conflict flickering across his face. Let her go, Marcus said calmly. If you love her. Adrian turned to him, anger flashing. Stay out of this. Marcus didn't move. I've been out of it for years. That's the problem. Elena stepped past them both, walking slowly but steadily toward the exit. Each step felt like tearing away something familiar and freeing something buried. She didn't look back. The apartment felt different now. Not temporary. Intentional. Elena rearranged the furniture, opened windows, let sunlight fill spaces that had once felt borrowed. She attended her appointments alone, or with Marcus when needed. She followed instructions. She rested. And she thought. Adrian called daily at first. Then twice a day. Then left voicemails when she didn't answer. I'm changing, he said in one. I've pushed Victoria out of strategic decisions. I postponed the final merger vote. Elena listened without responding. One evening, she sat on the couch, a cup of tea cradled between her hands, when a realization settled over her with surprising calm. She hadn't missed him all day. That frightened her more than anger ever had. Marcus noticed the shift before she named it. You're quieter, he said. I'm listening, she replied. To myself. He nodded. That can be loud. Across town, Adrian's world began to tilt. The merger stalled. Investors hesitated. Victoria grew sharper, more insistent. You're losing leverage, she warned. Personal distractions are bleeding into professional judgment. She's my wife, Adrian snapped. And she almost lost our child. Victoria leaned forward. Then decide which one you're willing to lose. The question hit him harder than he expected. That night, he went to Elena's apartment unannounced. She opened the door and froze. You shouldn't be here, she said. I needed to see you, he replied. Without schedules. Without negotiations. She stepped aside reluctantly. He looked around, noticing the changes, the warmth, the calm. The absence of him. I failed you, he said. I see that now. She didn't answer. I was chasing something I thought would make us secure, he continued. I didn't realize I was making you unsafe. Her voice was steady when she spoke. You didn't realize because it didn't cost you anything. Not until now. I'm willing to do anything, he said. Therapy. Time off. Public consequences. I'll walk away from the merger if I have to. She searched his face. Would you have said that before the hospital? He hesitated. That was enough. I'm not asking you to choose me anymore, she said. I'm choosing myself. He reached for her, stopped himself halfway. Is there someone else? She thought of Marcus. Of kindness without conditions. Of presence without promises. No, she said. There's just me. Adrian left quietly, something inside him breaking in a way success never had. Days later, Elena received an email. An official invitation. A board meeting. Her name listed, not as a guest. As a majority stakeholder. She stared at the screen, heart pounding. She hadn't known. Not fully. Not until now. The firm Adrian was fighting to merge, she owned most of it. Through a trust established years ago, quietly, deliberately, by a father who'd seen her strength long before anyone else had. She closed her laptop slowly. Across the city, the merger clock ticked down. And Elena, once overlooked, once silent, was no longer on the sidelines. She was at the center of the storm. Elena didn't sleep that night. The email replayed in her mind like a quiet explosion. Majority stakeholder. Her name. Her authority. All the years she had stood beside Adrian thinking she was just the supportive wife, while the ground beneath the empire had always known her weight. At dawn, she dressed carefully. No rush. No panic. A soft tailored dress, low heels, hair pulled back with intention. For the first time since the pregnancy began, she wasn't dressing to disappear. Marcus watched her from the doorway. "You look different," he said. "I feel different," she replied. "Like I've been holding my breath for years." He hesitated. "Are you ready for what this means?" She met his eyes. "I've been ready. I just didn't know it." The boardroom buzzed with low conversation when Elena walked in. Adrian was already there, pacing near the window, jacket off, phone pressed to his ear. Victoria sat at the table, tablet open, expression sharp. The room stilled when Elena entered. Adrian turned first. "Elena." Confusion crossed his face. "Why are you?" She didn't answer him. She walked to the empty chair at the head of the table and sat. "Good morning," she said calmly. "Shall we begin?" Murmurs rippled through the room. Victoria frowned. "This is a closed meeting." Elena slid a document across the table. "Not to me." Victoria's eyes scanned the page. Her expression shifted, tightened. Adrian stepped forward. "What is this?" "Clarification," Elena replied. "I hold 90% controlling interest through the Aurelian Trust." Silence. Adrian's face drained of color. "That's not possible." "It is," she said. "And it's been true longer than our marriage." Victoria stood abruptly. "This changes nothing. She's emotionally compromised." Elena looked at her. "I'm medically monitored, legally protected, and fully informed." "Try again." The board members exchanged glances. Adrian sank into a chair, the weight of realization crushing down. All the power he'd chased. All the leverage he thought he had. It had been hers all along. "You knew?" he asked quietly. "I didn't," she said honestly. "Not the extent. But I know now." She placed both hands on the table, steady. "And I have concerns." The room leaned in. "About the merger," Elena continued. "About leadership priorities. And about the culture being built around sacrifice, especially of people who aren't in the room." Victoria scoffed. "This is personal." "Yes," Elena said. "And it should be. Businesses collapse when people become expendable." Adrian watched her, something breaking and something else, begrudging respect, taking its place. "What do you want?" he asked. Elena held his gaze. "I want transparency. Restructuring. And I want Victoria removed from strategic oversight." Victoria's voice sharpened. "You can't be serious." Elena turned to the board. "I am." Effective immediately. A vote followed. Quick. Decisive. Victoria lost. She gathered her things with controlled fury, eyes locking onto Elena. "You think this makes you powerful?" Elena replied softly. "No. It makes me responsible." When the room cleared, Adrian remained. "You could have destroyed me," he said. "I could have," she agreed. "But this isn't revenge. It's correction." He swallowed. "Is there any part of you that still believes in us?" She stood, one hand resting on her stomach. "I believe in accountability," she said. "And I believe love shouldn't cost your health." He nodded slowly. "What happens now?" "I step back from the merger," she said. "I protect what matters. And me." She paused. "You decide who you are without being chased by ambition. Then maybe, one day we talk again." Outside, Marcus waited. "How did it go?" he asked. She exhaled, a smile breaking through exhaustion. "I didn't raise my voice once." He smiled. "That's power." Weeks passed. Elena focused on her health. The baby stabilized. The constant tension eased. Adrian stepped down from the merger, publicly citing family priorities. The media speculated. The truth stayed quiet. Victoria disappeared from headlines. One evening, Elena stood on her balcony, city lights flickering below. Marcus joined her. "You don't owe anyone anything anymore." She nodded. "I know. That's what makes choice meaningful." He hesitated. "And what do you choose?" She looked out at the horizon, hand resting on the gentle curve of her belly. "I choose peace," she said. "And strength. And whatever grows from honesty." He didn't reach for her. He just stood beside her. Inside the apartment, the future waited, uncertain but no longer silent. The city softened as autumn crept in. For the first time in months, Elena felt time moving without crushing her chest. The days no longer blurred into anxiety and waiting. They had shape now: doctor visits, quiet mornings, short walks when her strength allowed. The baby kicked more often, a gentle insistence on life that grounded her when memories tried to pull her backward. Adrian kept his distance. Not because he didn't care, but because for once he was listening. He sent messages without pressure. Updates without manipulation. Apologies without expectation. "I'm learning how to be still," one message read. "I don't know if I'm good at it yet, but I'm trying." Elena read them when she had the energy. She didn't reply to all of them. And when she did, she kept her words honest and brief. One afternoon, she received a call from the hospital. A complication. Minor, but enough to bring fear rushing back. Marcus drove her there without hesitation, one hand steady on the wheel, the other ready to reach for her if she needed grounding. "You don't have to be brave," he said quietly. "Just stay present." She squeezed her eyes shut. "I hate feeling fragile." He glanced at her. "Fragile things are usually growing." The tests came back stable. The baby was fine. Relief left Elena trembling. As she sat in the recovery room, Marcus stepped outside to give her privacy. Adrian arrived minutes later, breathless, hair slightly undone, like he'd run the whole way. "I came as soon as I heard," he said. She nodded. "I know." He stood there, hands useless at his sides. "Are you okay?" "Yes," she said. "We are." The word we hung between them, no longer an invitation, not quite a boundary. He swallowed. "I've started therapy." She looked at him, surprised. "I realized something," he continued. "I don't know how to love without control, or how to stop chasing what keeps me from sitting with discomfort." She studied his face. He looked tired, not the glamorous exhaustion of success, but the raw kind that comes from confronting yourself. "That's a hard place to be," she said. "I deserve it," he replied. She didn't argue. Weeks later, Elena attended a small company function. Nothing flashy, no press. Just people. She spoke briefly, firmly about values, sustainability, and leadership that didn't burn people alive to stay profitable. She felt the shift in the room. Respect. Attention. Not because she demanded it, but because she carried it naturally now. Afterward, a woman approached her. "I didn't expect this," the woman admitted. "You're different from what I imagined." Elena smiled. "So am I." At home that night, she sat alone, the apartment quiet except for distant traffic. She thought about the woman she had been, the one who waited, who excused silence, who believed love meant endurance. She placed her hand over her belly. "I won't teach you that," she whispered. "I'll teach you how to listen to yourself." The final meeting with Adrian came unexpectedly. He asked for coffee. Neutral ground. She agreed. They sat across from each other, steam rising between them. "I'm not here to ask for forgiveness," he said. "Or another chance." She nodded. "Good. I'm here to acknowledge what I lost," he continued. "And what I did." She listened. "I loved you," he said. "But I loved my ambition louder." Her chest tightened, but she stayed steady. "I hope you learn how not to do that again," she said. "With anyone." He smiled faintly. "I hope so too." They parted without tears. Without promises. And somehow that felt like closure. That evening, Marcus came over with takeout. "You survived another chapter," he said lightly. She laughed. "Barely." They ate on the floor, backs against the couch. "You know," he said carefully, "whatever happens next doesn't have to look like a fairy tale." She looked at him. "Good. I'm tired of stories that only work if someone stays small." He met her gaze. "So am I." She didn't reach for him. Not yet. But she didn't pull away either. The baby kicked again, stronger this time. Elena smiled, warmth spreading through her chest. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of the morning. Morning arrived gently. Sunlight spilled across the apartment, touching the walls Elena had made her own. She lay still for a moment, one hand resting over her belly, breathing in the quiet. No alarms. No urgent calls. No pressure to perform. Just presence. The baby moved again, steady and strong, and Elena smiled. "You're already teaching me," she whispered. "How to slow down." Her life no longer felt like something she was chasing. It felt like something she was building. Months passed. The company stabilized under new leadership. Elena delegated wisely, stepped back when needed, and showed up when it mattered. Her decisions were measured, human and firm. People noticed. Not because she demanded loyalty, but because she inspired it. Adrian kept his word. He stayed out of her space. He worked on himself quietly. No grand gestures. No public confessions. Just change, slow and unglamorous. One evening, he sent a final message. I understand now that love doesn't mean being chosen after everything else, that it means choosing someone first. Without needing to be reminded, that I'm sorry it took losing you to learn that. Elena read it twice. Then she closed her phone. Not in anger. In peace. That night, she stood on the balcony again. The city looked different now, not like a battlefield, but like a place full of parallel lives, each learning lessons in their own time. Marcus joined her, handing her a glass of water. You okay? He asked. She nodded. Better than okay. They stood side by side, comfortable in the silence. You never asked me for anything, she said quietly. He shrugged. That's not how care works. She turned to him. That's exactly how I know it's real. He didn't rush her. He never had. Weeks later, labor came early. Not dangerously, but urgently. The hospital lights blurred past as Elena breathed through the contractions, fear and determination colliding inside her. Marcus stayed close, steady and calm, grounding her when the pain surged. You're doing this, he said softly. You're strong. She cried. She screamed. She fought. And then, she held her child. Tiny. Warm. Alive. The room fell away. Everything she had endured, every dismissal, every silence, every night she felt invisible, it all led here. A new beginning. Later, as the baby slept against her chest, Elena looked at Marcus. Thank you for standing with me, she said. He smiled. You stood up on your own. I just didn't walk away. Adrian visited days later. He stood at the doorway, unsure. Elena nodded once. He stepped inside, eyes softening when he saw the baby. She's beautiful, he said. Yes, Elena replied. She is. He didn't ask to hold her. He just looked. And that told Elena everything she needed to know. Some love transforms. Some love teaches. Not all love stays. And that's okay. Months later, Elena walked through the park, stroller rolling smoothly beside her. The air was crisp. Her steps were confident. She passed couples arguing quietly. People staring at phones. Others laughing without care. She saw herself everywhere. In the women who stayed silent, I am the ones who were just beginning to question. I am the ones who didn't yet know they were stronger than the life they were tolerating. She stopped beneath a tree, looking down at her child. I will never teach you to shrink for love, she whispered. I will teach you to choose yourself and let the right people meet you there. Marcus joined her, carrying coffee. You ready? He asked. She smiled. I already am. They walked on. Not rushing. Not hiding. Just moving forward. Together by choice. And somewhere in the quiet, a truth settled into the heart of the story. Love doesn't break you to prove its value. Ambition isn't evil, until it demands your soul. And silence is never strength when it costs your health, your voice, or your worth. If this story made you feel something, anger, pain, recognition, or hope, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, where have I been quiet when I should have spoken? What have I been tolerating because I thought love required it? If this story spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Like the video. Subscribe for more cinematic stories that tell the truth we don't say out loud. And share this with someone who needs to remember their power. Because sometimes the strongest empires are built quietly, by people who finally choose themselves.